a domain with a horizontal reflection. And if you'll notice, I purposely put this dome here, and you see the dome where on the first one where it's on the right, but the second little dome here is now on the left. These are reflected across what would be the y-axis in a sense. So this is what happens here. On the normal graph, we would have positive x values for x because you can only square root a positive number and get a real solution. So here I have to have a negative x because a negative times a negative makes it positive. That's why the graph is reflected to the other side, okay? Hence the reflection in the graph we have up here. So if you were to type this in your calculator, you would see this in error. So it tells me that all the numbers from 1 and above are not possible because a positive number would become negative in this particular one, and I can't square root a negative. So therefore, my domain is all the x values less than or equal to 0, which in a write notation will now be this, which will be the parentheses, negative infinity to 0 with a bracket. It can equal 0, and infinities are never brackets, they're always parentheses. But notice, you always start with the smallest number to the largest. Kind of hard to think of infinities being small, but negative infinity, we read left to right. Okay? So what about this one here? Well, I kind of like to think of it this way. It's the, if I were to put this in parentheses, it's the negative of this whole value here. Well, if it's a plus 5, it's an inside liar, which means it's at negative 5. And this negative here reflects it across the axis. So instead of going to the positive, it's going the negative direction because the only values that work are values like this here. If I have a negative 4 in here and I add 5, that's a positive 1, which I make negative, which gives me negative 1. It will not work. So the only values that work are from negative infinity to 0. So it means x is less than or equal to negative 5, negative infinity to negative 5. These with the negative on the inside will be from the negative infinities, right? Because they're reflected. Same thing here. I like to think of it this way here. So actually, there's a mistake here. This should be a minus 5. I forgot to change it. That should be a negative 5. Just make note, negative 5, which would make that a 5 right here. And as you can see here, it's still reflected across negative values. So it would be from x is less than or equal to 5, from negative infinity to 5. And like I said, this is a negative right here. All right, thank you. So let's look at these here. Basically, the way I look at this is, this will be at less than or equal to negative 4, negative 2, less than or equal to 2, less than or equal to 124. The negative x, in a sense, if you were to solve it, would equal these numbers. Or you can look at it this way. If a negative x plus negative x plus 2 equals 0, you would move the x to the side. Another way you can look at these here to solve these real quickly is set them equal to 0 and find what they equal to. And so in each of these, where there's a negative x, it starts from the negative infinity and goes to the number that is a bracket.